It's all right, I'll get that later. Okay, welcome. I'm Rabbi Tobin, Talmud B'nai Shalom. This is the 8th of April, and we're in chapter 3 of Sanhedrin. And we did the Mishnah on 27, 27a had the Mishnah? El and Akrovim.
27b2 is
27b. So the Mishnah is in the middle of page 27b for those following on the traditional daf. And we will do a very fast, quick summary before getting into more of the details. This Mishnah talks about who is not qualified to be a witness, who more specifically is disqualified from being a witness because of their family relationship to you. And the Mishnah went through all of these men, your brother, your father's brother, your mother's brother, his sister's husband, his father's sister's husband, his mother's sister's husband, the mother's husband, the father-in-law, the brother-in-law, and their sons-in-law, and his stepson alone is disqualified. Rabbi Yossi said that this is all according to Rabbi Akiva, but originally the Mishnah Rishona, the earlier version of the Mishnah, had said just his uncle, his uncle's son, and all who are eligible to inherit. So we know there was a little historical development here. Rabbi Akiva basically filled out the details of who are those people who can inherit. Now, what's important for today's conversation is that if you're talking about you and your father and your uncles and your aunt's husbands and all of their children and their sons-in-law, that if you think about it in terms of levels of a family tree, your father and his siblings and siblings-in-law are level 1. You are level 2. Your cousins are level 2. Your cousins-in-law are level 2. Okay, you're all on that same level. And so you have, for anywhere on level 2, cannot testify regarding anyone on level 1 or on level 2. Obviously, level 2 people at some point start their own families and become their own level 1 people with their own family systems where they are level 1 and there's a level 2. For our purposes, we're going to usually focus on the person as being level 2 so that we can talk about their parents and we can talk about their children. Okay, so we're going to never deal with more than 3 levels of the family tree. The question that's going to arise today is, can level 3 testify regarding level 1? Can level 1 testify regarding level 3? Grandparents, grandchildren, granduncles, grandnephews. Okay? First cousins once removed, I think that's the term, etc. Going down those lines. So if you have can you jump from a 3rd generation? Let's leave the door open a little bit if we could, please. Just leave it open a little. There you go.
Is it me or was it weak?
I don't know. Just you know what it is that magnet probably pulls it shut. I don't know. Okay, so then there is after the Rabbi Yossi thing about the earlier Mishnah, v'chol hakarov lo be'ota sha'ah. There's a caveat that these rules of being disqualified as a witness because of your family relationship have to do with your family relationship at the time of the incident and at the time of the court case, So if you are that relation when it is pertinent, you are disqualified from testifying regarding it. But if you were of that relation at some earlier point in your life and you are no longer that relation, in other words, my sister and her husband got a divorce. Up until that point, her husband is disqualified as a witness to me. After the divorce, he's kosher. What's the problem? He's not related to me in any way. Okay? So that caveat comes in. But Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, afilu meta bito v'yesh lo banim mimenu harizeh karov. Except for the case where my daughter and my son-in-law have gotten divorced, or my daughter and my son-in-law, she died, he's no longer related to me, but they have a kid. That kid is a potential heir of mine, and therefore his father is a potential heir of his, so his father is still related enough that he can't testify regarding me.
Question.
Yeah.
If you have a divorce, what if the person harbors ill feelings due to things that happened while they were married?
I was wondering about that too.
Because this makes no sense whatsoever, really. You're just saying the only thing that counts is the relationship, but
So the only thing that counts is the financial incentive to skew the case because they could inherit from you. That's why they're not allowed to testify, because they're in the line of inheritance. So your brother might hate you. What's the difference? Your ex-husband might hate you. Your current husband might hate you. Right? I mean, your husband might lie regarding his wife in a capital case because he can get rid of her if he hates her. So we're not really bringing in the hate thing in the major category of krovim, of relation. It's really about inheritance.
money, yeah.
So it doesn't matter how much the ex-husband bears a grudge and continues to act out the divorce as a hobby for the rest of their lives. It doesn't matter because no court in the world is going to let him inherit from her father's estate because of the divorce. The divorce is effective. Now, at the end, relationship comes in. Rabbi Yehuda says, anybody who's an ohev or a soneh, you love or you hate the person about whom the testimony is being given, and love is any of your groomsmen, and hate is anybody who gave you an anger-based silent treatment of 3 days. And it finishes with Lo nechshadu Yisrael kach. Nobody was ever suspected in Israel for this. Not that they weren't suspected of being a groomsman, because that happens, and not that they weren't suspected of giving the silent treatment for 3 days out of anger, because that happens. But using either of those motivations to lie in court, that doesn't happen. That's what the Mishnah is saying. Okay? So that was the Mishnah. After the Mishnah, we had an immediate challenge, minahan emile. Where do all these words come from? Because obviously there's no verse in the Torah that says what the Mishnah just said. And so the Gemara wants to know, where do the rabbis have the authority to teach all these rules? And there's about 4 or 5 verses from the Torah that deal with the topic of someone being put to death, and fathers and sons not being put to death, or fathers and sons both dying from the same kind of sin. So they went through that. The first Baraita established that there's a verse, Lo yumetu avot al banim, or banim al avot is the end of that verse. The fathers shall not be put to death for the sons, and the sons shall not be put to death for the fathers. The rabbinic form of interpretation, remember, is that every verse means one and only one thing, and no 2 verses can mean the same thing. So they immediately say, if you think that verse, fathers are not put to death for the sons and sons are not put to death for the fathers, if you think that that's about sons and fathers not being punished for each other's sin, then you would be wrong. Because we have another verse here in the Baraita, Ish becheto yumatu. Each person is executed for his own sin. So we have a clear verse in Leviticus of individual responsibility. You're never executed for somebody else's sin. All right? So, since our verse, Lo yimetu avot al banim and banim al avot, fathers shall not be killed for sons and sons not for fathers, that can't mean individual responsibility. It must mean something else. So we conclude that it means edut, testimony. All right, so that verse now for the rabbis means fathers cannot testimony or give testimony that would execute their sons. Sons cannot give testimony that would execute their fathers. And on that basis, the whole list of all these men in the Mishnah are disqualified because they are sons or fathers. Okay? Is that a convincing argument? You could argue that a nephew isn't, right? You could argue that a son-in-law isn't. You could argue that a brother isn't, right? So it's not an ironclad argument. Okay. Then they challenged, they said, now wait a minute, your logic that everybody's executed for their own sins, and sons and fathers don't suffer each other's punishments. Well, hang on a second. We have other verses we know about in the Torah that seem to say they are punished for each other's sins. So it's going to digress on that for a minute. So it's going to say, what about Hakativ Poked Avon Avoto Banim, visiting the sins of the father on the sons? Right? We have a verse that says that. The answer to that is going to be Hatam Kisha Ochazim Maaseh Avoteim B'Yedehem. That's only where the sons continue to do the sins of the fathers. So the sins of the fathers are surely causing their death, but only because they're doing them too. So it's dad's sin, but I'm doing it. Yes.
My father and my uncle were in business together.
This is a real story?
This is a real
Should I
story.
mute the internet?
I don't care.
Go
My father
ahead.
said my uncle was no good and I should never have anything to do with him or any of his descendants forever. So basically he was trying to extend the sins down to the next generation, which he couldn't do.
Correct. Now, did your father think that your cousins were doing the same things your uncle was doing?
He didn't care, he was just trying to get back to my uncle. But the best part of it is that 30 years later, he just denied ever having said it. So it never occurred.
Very good.
There you go.
All right. All right. So we have this verse that it can happen that sons die from their father's sins, and the refutation of that is, no, that's only when the sons do the father's sins, which undermines the essence of the Torah verse. But aren't you happy that we did? Because otherwise you have a Torah verse that says sons get killed for their fathers. So you don't want that, right? So everyone's agreeing that that's not it. But then we're going to get another Baraita. Kidatanya teaches in another Baraita, V'af ba'avanot avotam itam yamaku. So now we've got verse number 4 that is also from Leviticus, and it says, but even in their father's sins they shall be, and they used what to translate yamaku here? Wiped out or withered away? Withered away. All right? So we have a verse in Leviticus that seems to say, again, that the sons do suffer from the sins of the fathers, but this Baraita draws the exact same conclusion. The verse in Leviticus that everyone dies for their own sin is quoted, and the takeaway is, in this case, lo yimaku, they shall wither away, is also when they are doing their father's sin. Okay? So we have two different traditions that ask the question based on a different first verse. They resolve the question with the same second verse, and they're concluding individual responsibility, and sons only suffer from their fathers when they repeat their father's sin. Fine. The Gemara then said, lo, hang on, but I've got another one. Haktiv, and I'm at the end of 27b3. Haktiv, v'chashlu ish be'achiv, ish be'avon achiv. But we have another one that says man will stumble over his brother. That means the sin of his brother. So you have two brothers who are suffering from each other. Now that's not exactly as much of a concern for the other verses, which were father and son, but the Mishnah has said brothers can't testify around each other either, so we're going to bring up a verse where brothers are getting harmed by each other, and if they can get harmed by each other, then why can't they testify for each other or against each other? Like, that's what's going on here. So it raises the question of brothers harming each other, or because of one brother's sin, the other brother suffers. And if that's possible, then they should be able to testify, so the Mishnah would be wrong. That's why that's here. And that's quickly gotten rid of. Milamed shekulan arivim zeh lazeh. That this teaches us that everyone's responsible for each other. How so? Hatam sha'aya bi'adam limchot v'lo michu. Because in that case, the brother always has the ability to rebuke his brother, stop him from sinning. He didn't stop him from sinning, so they both should be punished. So that's why that happened. But that's different from testimony in court. So he should have got himself out of it. His brother can't absolutely make him suffer. He becomes, he's colluding with it. He gets troubled by it. He gets wrapped up in the punishment because he was there and he didn't make his brother stop. Therefore, he's complicit in the sin and punishable. Okay?
So he's his brother's keeper.
He is his brother's keeper.
He is
And they say,
partially
Kol Yisrael
responsible.
Arivim Zelazah. Everybody is responsible for each other. Okay? Moving along. Now we get a series of ashkachans, which was, regardless of whether you or the rules of logic are convinced that the topic is settled logically, ashkachan means the Gemara has determined that the topic has been settled logically. We accept that argument. So, ashkachan, avot levanim. Am I scratching myself here?
28.
All right, 28. We turn on to page 28. Ashkachan avot levanim uvanim la'avot. So fine, fathers and sons and fathers, they can't testify, they're disqualified. We accept your proof. Sorry, I didn't see that you were flying without
That's all right.
a map there. Okay, ready? But, v'chol shekain avot lahadade. So certainly the fathers with these whom we just discussed were the brothers. Okay? So, how much the more so if they are brothers? They should also not be accepted. Banim levanim minalan. But, sons with sons, where's that proof? Okay. So now the charting will begin. So, you have a father and a father. And he has a son and a son. So, ashkachan, that these cannot. And ashkachan, that these cannot. And kol shekain, how much the more so, that these cannot.
They're brothers.
Because they're brothers.
Okay.
But minalan, these two, who are not brothers, they're sons of brothers, also known as cousins. Okay? So the Ashkachan said that this has been proven, and this has been proven, and the Kol Shekain, the logic out of that, said this has been proven. Now we're on to the cousins. Okay? I'm going to start to do this.
What about,
Don't do that. Please just stay where we are. Because it's going to do every permutation, and then it's going to get into marriages and in-laws, and the next 3 pages are torturous. Then we get to one of the best mishnahs in the whole tractate. So we'll get rewarded. It's like when I took the group to Arad for Shabbat, but then we went to a 5-star at the Dead Sea the next day. This is Arad. I love Arad. Don't get me wrong. I love Arad. Great town. But not because it's easy. I love Arad because it's good. Okay, ready?
I remember the schnitzel.
Was that good or bad, the schnitzel?
It was okay.
It was fine. Schnitzel. Okay, ready? Here we go. So, minalan levanim. So, how do we know regarding these sons? So, you could be confused if you're reading the Gemara and you say sons, you would think sons who are brothers. But they already proved it when the fathers were brothers. So, forget about that. Sons are these two. They're cousins. Okay? Im kain lichtov kra lo yimatu avot al bein. So, we had the first proof text from the first Baraita when we asked what's the authority of the Mishnah. The proof text was fathers shall not die for brothers and brothers shall not die for fathers. Right? That was the proof text. It's going to say if you wanted to permit this, right, then the Torah should have said fathers shall not die for son, singular, and son not for fathers. So why does it say sons to include these 2 sons? Because if you only wanted to outlaw this, fathers for son for fathers would have gotten the job done. And the Torah always says things for a meaning, and the meaning would have been achieved if you only did the singular word ben, but the Torah actually says the plural word banim, and therefore it's talking about cousins.
At first glance, I would have thought it would be like all his sons rather than.
Right, but we already solved that in the last Baraita. So we can't be talking about sons again because it's Ashkechan. We already solved that.
In the Shema, they talk about singular and plural.
Vishinantim levanecha, plural.
And then in the first one, I think it's singular, isn't it? If I recall, the half the one and the Vahaya is the plural, half the ones are the singular. So it's like, okay, just saying the idea of singular versus plural.
Yeah,
Parallel.
let's not do that because this is going to be confusing enough, right? Honestly, we're going to focus here because right now it's pretty straightforward and it's going to get worse. Ready? All right. So afilo banim lahadade. So it said banim, not ben. For even these sons, where the sons are of different fathers, and they are in fact cousins. Everyone happy with that? Is that an absolute proof? No, it's not. Because you could say ben means ben, not cousin. You could go there, but they don't. They say ashkechan. Ashkechan is giving you permission to just pull the emergency release on that logic and move on to the next one. Ashkechan banim lahadade. Okay, fine. So you've proven this. Okay, so now this is and we've Ashkechan, we've checked it. They are not allowed to testify for each other. And what's next? Ashkechan bin.
Beautiful setup for a crime family.
Right, nobody can rat each other out. Right? Nobody can turn state's witness in a crime family. They're not allowed to. You always have to get to the bookkeeper.
All the money.
Right? You get to the bookkeeper who's not in the family. All right, banim la'alma minalan. So what about sons? All kinds of people. Banim la'alma, just anyone in the family who's a son. All this generalness. Where is that? Where do we know that? All right, so banim la'alma minalan, and now we're going to get Rami Bar Chama. Remember Rami Bar Chama? Rami Bar Chama was involved in the case where it was, do you think that people who lie about little things lie about big things, or people who lie about big things lie about little things? Rami Bar Chama is still sticking around on this. Evidently, he's one of the authorities in Edut, in testimony. Okay, so what's he going to say? Svarahu, oh, come on, he says, it's just logical. Whenever they say svaratu, you have to be worried. So he's going to say, Ditanya, we have another Baraita, third Baraita, on this same question. And now we're going to do Eidim Zomamim again. Do you remember Eidim Zomamim? What's an Eid Zomem? That's a lying witness who was not there. Specific. Okay? That's an Eid Zomem, is one person. Plural is Zomemim. Eidin Zomamim. Obviously, an Eid Zomem is one. Eidin Zomamim is two. The question that's going to be raised here is going to be, if you have two people who are proven to be Zomamim, they, in a capital case, they get the punishment that they were lying about, which means death. Okay? So if the two people are brothers or related to each other, you could argue that if Zomamim allows that, then Zomamim shows that they can testify for each other in cases where they get killed. That their witnessing can be valid to affect their execution, which would undermine the entire Mishnah, which says none of these people can testify about each other, and the Gemara interpreted that as for death. right? Because the only examples the Gemara has given so far are so-and-so can't be killed because of so-and-so, and so-and-so can't be killed because of so-and-so. So it seems like we're only dealing with capital cases in the Gemara. The Mishnah didn't say that, but the Gemara, all the proof texts of the Gemara are about people dying. So presumably the Gemara thinks the Mishnah is about capital cases at this point. So we're going to bring Eidin Zomamim in to try and figure out who's allowed to be testifying with each other when Zomamim could make you get executed. Okay? So it's a slightly different scenario than just a capital case, but it's a witnessing situation where somebody could be killed because of the testimony. So in that case, it sounds kind of like a capital case. We'll see. Because the Torah verse is about people getting killed for each other's testimony. So is Eidin Zomamim a case where the Torah rule about testimony applies if they can be killed because of their testimony? You hear what's going on? It's an unwelcome shift of topic because it blurs what's going on badly. It blurs what's going on badly because now we're talking about Zomamim. We're going to get into it and then it's going to get us out of it. Okay, so Kidatanya. So it's taught in the Baraita. Ein ha'edim na'asim zomamim ad sheyizomu shnehem. The witnesses are not made zomamim, meaning effectively determined to be zomamim and given their punishment, until both of them are made zomamim. Both, okay? And the isakadatach banim la'alma kasherin, and if you thought that all these other kinds of sons in general are kosher for each other, nimsa ed zomem ne'erag be'edut achiv. You could find that a zomem is going to be killed because of his brother's testimony. So let's say that this guy and this guy, now we're into nephews and stuff, let's say they are proven to be zomamim. Okay? They can't be proven to be zomamim until they're both proven to be zomamim, which means the testimony of the one is what makes the other get killed. Because without that second testimony being zomem, the first one doesn't get killed. So his testimony is resulting in the death of the other relative. So from Eidin Zomamim rules, it seems if you say all these other relatives can testify together, then they could be causing each other's death in a Zomem situation. It's not a great example, but okay. Amar le Rava. So Rava is going to come in. That's Rav Rami Bar Chama. Rami Bar Chama. And here it's going to be Rava. And they sparred off last time. It's the same pair. Okay? So now Rava comes in. Amar le Rava. V'litamech haditnan. But for your reasoning, if you say that's what's happening, then you have a problem with the next Mishnah. Shlosha achin echad mitzarefim ahem. Where you had three brothers, and we did this at the end last time. Brother 1, brother 2, brother 3. 1, 2, 3. Plus echad mitzaref itam. Plus one who's going to testify with them. Okay? So this is the same guy. He gives this testimony, this testimony, this testimony. Okay? And what happened? These are three gimel eduyot hen, edut echad lahazama. Even though this is 1, 2, 3 different groups of witnesses, if it's proven that they are zomamim, it's proven as a singular group that they are zomamim. The brothers can be proven that they were all together at one place, and A can be proven that he was at a place. And therefore the brothers as a group are convicting each other as zomamim and can be put to death. So Rava would say, according to your logic, in this Mishnah, they would all be put to death, and relatives are testifying with each other. How can that be? Nimsa ed zomem mishalem mamon be'edut achiv. And in this case, in the Mishnah, it's a monetary case, but you find that an ed zomem is being punished with a monetary thing, and so they're actually hurting each other and testifying together. So, rather, Ella, Rava says, the reason this works is not because of your reason, but because hazama is from the outside. Hazama is the act of declaring somebody a zomen, is not part of their testimony. Since Hazama testimony is not part of their testimony, the rules of them being convicted together, it's not because of their testimony that they're convicted. It's because of the Hazama that they're convicted. That's why they're allowed to testify together, right? And they're actually not testifying together, they're testifying separately. They're being convicted together for Hazama because of this testimony, not because of them. Whereas Rami Bar Chama is letting them all get mixed in together, and he lets them testify together, and Rava says you can't do that, because this Mishnah proves that they don't. They testify separately, even though they're convicted together. Yes?
Last week you were saying that Hazana has to do with contradicting, so is it because they're contradicting each other?
This group of witnesses, a new group, C and D, come and testify that they saw these people at a party on the Eastern Shore at the time they're swearing that they saw something here in a contract case. So they're liars who were in another place. C and D are testifying about all those people.
Okay.
B, 1, 2, and 3 may have testified in 3 different depositions, each time with A. So they didn't testify together. Even though they might be in cahoots, they're not testifying together in this Mishnah. They are 3 different groups of witnesses, according to the Mishnah. So Rami Bar Chama is saying, they can work together, they can testify together. And Rava says, not according to the way this Mishnah is structured. The Mishnah separates them very clearly. And it's not because of Hazama grouping them together, because if they were together, Hazama would have their testimony killing each other, or punishing each other, or fining each other. And we don't allow that because of the Mishnah that we just started today's class with. So that doesn't work. Rather, we learn that Hazama is not part of that testimony. It's a separate issue, even though they all get convicted together. That's just an aside. It doesn't speak directly to our question, okay? But it happens. So here it is. Okay, so we're almost out of that. Ela Hazama me'alma kate. Rather, it teaches Hazama comes from the outside. Hachanami Hazama me'alma kate. And here too, in regard to 2 relatives testifying as a pair in a capital case, we would say they become zomem, that the Hazama comes from an external source. So, he would say, according to your logic, the Hazama would allow these 2 to testify in a capital case, and we know that that's not allowed in the Mishnah. So applying the logic of Rami Bar Chama, you would have to allow even these forbidden pairs to be testifying together, and then maybe getting executed. So, Ella im kain lichtov kra vein alavot. And so the Gemara says, it's going to find a source to disqualify the 2 relatives, and it's going to use this verse. Again, when it says avodu banim and banim al banot, it uses that verse again and says, if you were going to do that, ela im kain lichtov kra bein alavot. Let the Torah say, son singular will not be put to death because of the father. Inami hem al avot. Or, and they shall not be put to death because of the fathers, substituting they for the word sons, just mentioned. So, if you think it's you want to say that all these other people are included, then it should have said hem instead of banim, or it should have said bain instead of banim. My banims, why does it say banim? Afilu banim la alma. So the general term banim is being used to include all the different types of the banim in the family tree. Is that convincing logic? No. Does your head hurt? Yes. Does anyone feel like they could reproduce the line of thought that I just gave them? No. Right? Don't feel that I'm talking fast like a whirlwind past you. The Gemara in this case is actually not following logic that is in fact logic. You can't hang on one sentence and get the next sentence and hang on that sentence and get the next sentence. It's making claims about verses that are coming fast and furious. And there is a certain amount of logic behind the argument between Rami Bar Chama and Rava, based in this other verse, but it's not at all clear, and once it becomes clear, it's not at all convincing. Ashkachan. The Gemara will now declare that that has been clearly, logically proven and satisfactorily settled.
So that's like parents saying their logic for why they're telling their kids yes or no is because I said so.
Yeah,
Ultimately, Ashkechan is because I said so.
That's what I thought.
This has been solved because I say this has been solved. There is a line of logic that allows you to solve it, but I will tell you that the Rishonim, the medieval commentary on this passage, goes on for pages and pages, and there are multiple solutions to show why it is Ashkechan, and the solutions do not agree with each other. Okay? So there's lots of people who think it's Ashkechan, but even they don't agree on each other why. Okay? So Ashkechan, fine, it's settled. Now, Ashkechan Krovei Ha'av, fine. All the father's relatives have been proven, because after all, what was the verse we've been working on? Lo yamutu avot al banim and banim al avot. Fathers on sons, sons on fathers. So fine, all the father's relatives are now banim ba'alma. Everybody's somebody's son, and all the sons and fathers are now disqualified. But what about the mothers? Right? Amar kra avot. Avot tre zimne. Oh, but it says the word fathers twice. Lo yim tu avot abanim, uvanim al avot. So the word fathers is used twice in the verse, and it can't be referring to the same people both times because the Torah doesn't stutter, and the Torah doesn't use a word without a reason. And if you learn the first word avot meant the fathers, then the second word avot needs to mean something else. What else could it possibly mean? Mothers.
Oh, mother.
Because avot means your male and female ancestors. Right? Because that's what Hebrew does. Plural male is gender inclusive. That's how Hebrew works. Yes, Stuart? No? Okay.
You don't have to say imahot, you just have to say
The
avot.
imahot means only mothers.
Right.
Avot can mean fathers and mothers. That was the argument against including imahot. Right? So we don't have the word imahot in our Siddur. Some Siddurim say avot u imahot, ve'imahot. Some say that. But that's just silly, because grammatically avot includes them. The problem is when you start to list them by name, you can't say that the words Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob include Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, because they're people's names. So if you want them included, you have to add their
So we
names.
say Amishaberach, we should say avot, and then we say imahot before we say
You don't need to say imahot, unless you're only talking about mothers. Anytime you're talking about the whole group, avot already includes them.
Yeah, I'm saying when you do Mishaberach, you
Mishaberach avotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. You would never say avotenu ve'imotenu,
and then you say,
which I hear people say sometimes.
but when you say Avraham Yitzchak, yeah, and then you start saying
Sarah,
Sarah,
Rivka, Rachel, Leah.
Should you start that with imahot?
No.
You don't have
Avotenu,
avotenu.
Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. Those are all the avot.
Right, and
You could say, those are all the avot.
okay, well, yeah.
Ancestors,
The
parents.
word ancestor.
The word avot is a homonym. It means fathers. It also means parents. So you don't need to add the word mothers if you've already said the word parents. To say our parents, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and our mothers, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, makes it sound like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were having kids together. How could they be parents? Right? So then you're saying, well, our fathers and then our mothers, but that's silly. You could just say avot and be done. Anyways, okay. Those arguments were fought, won, and lost, and you'll find prayer books that go both ways. Okay, ready?
Can I ask a contextual question?
Ashkechan, yeah.
Maybe you obviously covered this before, but the thinking behind going into all of this is that, I guess for various reasons, they don't want family put in the position of testifying against family.
They don't want family testifying against family.
But you also can't.
I
have
don't
the
know
same-
if that's true.
So what's the context?
What's the context?
That's what I'm asking.
The
What's
context
spirit
is
of this law?
inheritors should not be testifying in
Ah.
court because they have a stake in the case.
Got it,
You could be
got it.
profiting from it.
They're-
Has to be, okay, that's what I was.
They are
looking
not
for.
presuming a warm relationship or a hateful
That's
relationship.
what I'm saying.
Or any
They
relationship.
recognize there could be trouble in the family.
Correct. There's an inheritance at stake. So I'm going to testify that my father didn't make that stupid deal that he made in front of me that cost him $1 million from his company because he's got a bad cough. And may God heal him, maybe. And if the bad cough becomes a bad cough, I'm going to inherit that $1 million. So maybe I'm not a trustworthy witness because I've got $1 million at stake.
So that you answered the question. The I here is on inheritance.
Correct. That's why the Rabbi Akiva thing in the Mishnah was so important, that this is the Mishnah of Rabbi Akiva. Originally, it only said his father, his uncles, and all those who inherit him. That was the rephrase of the original Mishnah. Rabbi Akiva went in and said, okay, stop it. That means father, brother, brother-in-law, son, son-in-law, and he went down the whole list to be crystal clear who the inheritors are. Right? That's what that's all about. Okay, good question. All right, so we were Ashkechan, how about the mothers? And all we get is that. We get Avot is said twice, and so once it's fathers and once it's the mothers. So Tanehun Inyan Lekrove Am. So the second Avot means the relatives of the mothers. Are you convinced by that logic? I don't care. Ashkechan. Okay? Ashkechan. They are convinced. That has now been proven. So the second Avot, so Avot al Banim means cousins. Banim al Avot means all the other male relatives. Avot means paternal and maternal relatives. See what we're doing with the verse? All right, here we go. Ashkechan l'chova. Oh, by the way, all of this is testifying for bad outcomes, right? Capital cases, monetary fines. These are all negatives, right? L'zechut minalan. How do I know these people are not allowed to testify for someone's benefit? Right? Why not? So, Amar Kra, Yumatu, Tre Zimne. The word he shall die is also twice in the verse. He shall die because of punishment. He shall die because of zechut, merit, benefit. Right? Is there a testimony where I might testify that somebody's going to get executed where it's a benefit? Same case. Dad's got $1 million business. Right? So I'm now the cousin. I'm going to testify that he's got $1 million business, or that he owes $1 million to my father, or something like that, right? That he's going to get killed, and then my father's going to inherit from his $1 million thieving, idol-worshipping brother. And so I'm doing it, I'm testifying for my father for his zechut in a capital case where somebody's going to be killed. Still suspect. Can't do it. Okay, so the Yuma 2, he shall be killed, twice in the verse, now means for positive cases and for negative cases. Are you convinced of the logic?
Is that the same concept in the Torah when they say make you mot?
What?
When they say make you mot.
Make you mot. Yeah, when it says make you mot,
you will die.
dying he shall surely die. They could certainly try and split those into two possible meanings, but not usually, because that's a conjoined grammatical form. So mot you mot really means he will die. It's one concept. It's not really separate verbs.
I heard that you die in this world and the world to come.
Aye. So yes, people, yes. The Chabad have said in this world, and your soul perishes as well. Look, you can go there if you wish. It's not as common that the Gemara would do that. Somebody who's got an axe to grind, they're going to grind their axe. Okay. This is different because yumatu is the same whole word in two different places in the sentence, right? So it actually can mean two different things. It's not motumat as a single word construct in a single spot. Okay, so ashkachan lechova min zechut minalan amar kra yumatu trezimne tene inyan lezechut, and so that the second yumatu is because of ashkachan bedine nefashot. So, okay, gotcha. So for benefit or for loss, in a capital case, it's proven to me, you're absolutely right. But all of these cases have been about people dying. Bedine mamonot minalan. In civil cases about mammon, money, where do they get off writing all these rules? Shouldn't people be able to testify about each other? And this is where you get into your criminal family, right? And so, Amar Kra, but the Torah has said, and here's Torah verse number 6 in this whole section, Mishpat echad yiyeh lachem, Mishpat hashaveh lachem. When the Torah commands you shall have one law for all of you, it means there will be one standard of legal jurisprudence and proceedings for both kinds of cases, money and capital. So you shall have one law, means you shall have one law. You will not have separate systems of testimony for capital cases and money cases, and that actually is true. They have already established that earlier in the tractate. Okay? So they don't need to go into that because that's already been covered. You ready? All right.
I
So,
thought that term was more for people, that there was one law, not that for all the laws. In other words, when they said that,
for testimony.
for testimony, that.
Yeah, the rules of
that
witnesses.
a rich person and a poor person get treated.
Yeah, the context of the Torah is al takir panim b'mishpat.
Yeah.
You don't recognize people and give deference to the poor, or the rich, the powerful, or the weak, the stranger, or the homeborn, any of that. Yeah, that's the original context, but not for the rabbis.
But nowadays.
For the rabbis, it's about testimony, and there's one standard of testimony everywhere in all capital and money cases. Okay? So that's what it means, because we're rabbinic Jews. Okay? You want to read it for yourself, you have to be a Karaite. Otherwise, you have to go through the Talmud to figure out what it means. Okay, ready? The Gemara cites a ruling of Rav, not Rava, new guy, Rav. This is an Amora. Okay? So, Amar Rav, Achi Abba lo ya'id li hu uveno v'chatano. My father's brother cannot testify regarding me, he, his son, and his son-in-law. Af ani lo a'id lo ani uveni v'chatoni. So too, I cannot testify concerning him, my father's brother, neither I, my son, or my son-in-law. And this is where the mess really begins. Okay, so I've got a father, I have an uncle. I have me.
The uncle, the father's brother?
Yes. Because I'm going everything from this person's point of view now. Okay? I have a son and a son-in-law. Okay? So that means I have a daughter and I have a son. He has a son, a daughter, and a son-in-law. Okay? Everyone got the family tree? Normally this would mean husband-wife, I recognize that. This isn't supposed to be here, it's supposed to be like this, and they have common parents, and each of them have a spouse, presumably. Okay? That's the proper family tree. Okay. Well, I've got a spouse too, but let's not go there. All right, so here we go. So, according to Rav, my father's brother cannot testify regarding me, nor his son or his son-in-law. Okay? Nor may I, af ani, lo aid lo, nor my son and son-in-law. Okay? These are the people testifying regarding each other. This is the relationship we're dealing with. He, his son, and son-in-law regarding me. What's the Chiddush? We already knew that, right?
Yeah,
That was the Mishnah.
yeah.
Me, my son, and son-in-law, look what just happened. This is level 1, this is level 2, this is level 3 in the family tree. Okay? According to Rav, there is a level 3 forbidden from testifying against level 1, or for level 1, regarding level 1. Everyone see it? Got it? Okay, where does he go? The Gemara says, Amai. Why? Havale shlishi barishon. It's a third level to a first level. That's not forbidden. Ve'enan sheni b'sheni tnan. And we have learned regarding the second level and a second level. And sheni barishon tnan. We have learned in the Mishnah about the second level and the first level. Shlishi barishon lo tnan. But the third level and the first level we have not learned in the Mishnah. And the Gemara needs to answer that question which it posed. My chatano dikatani b'matnitin. What is the meaning of his son-in-law as taught in our Mishnah? So in the Mishnah, there was a son-in-law. It said he and his son-in-law, right? We saw that in the Mishnah. Hatan beno. The answer is it refers to his son's son-in-law. So the Mishnah says son-in-law, and according to Rav, that means the son's son-in-law. Is that what the Mishnah said? No. Is that what Rava says the Mishnah says? Don't know. That's what the Gemara is saying Rava might be saying, the Mishnah said. That would seem to be a misunderstanding of the Mishnah or a reinterpretation of the Mishnah. Okay? All we know is Rava said this, and the Gemara is trying to figure it out. So the Gemara is saying Rava must have thought the Mishnah said son-in-law, meaning the son's son-in-law. That's a suggestion by the Gemara.
Our family trees in the commentary below are cut off, so it's hard, you see it, but you don't.
Yeah, I'm not going with their charts every time either, because they add other stuff.
All right.
Okay, ready? Okay, 28a3. Velitne ben beno. Well, heck, if the Mishnah really meant that the son-in-law meant the son's son-in-law, then let the Mishnah say instead the son's son, right? Which would have gone, the son's son, which would then, of course, include the son-in-law. So you could do that, right? Milta agav orche kamash malan de ba'alka ishto. Because the milta agav, the thing you would learn from that, if the Mishnah had taught son, and the son-in-law is forbidden, it would teach you the principle that a man and his wife are halakhically identical. Meaning, the son-in-law is like a son, because he's identical to the daughter, who is in fact the child of the father. Okay? So if it had said son in the Mishnah, we could have learned, b'derech agav, this other teaching, that a man and his wife are halakhically identical. That's what would have happened had it taught that, which it didn't. Okay? Now, the Ella haditane Rav Chia. But rather, so we need to try and understand this through the Baraita taught by Rav Chia. So this whole thing, we're going to try and understand it by Rav Chia. What does Rav Chia say? Rav Chia's Baraita is Shmona Avot Shehem Esrim V'Arba. There are 8 Avot that in fact are 24. 8 is 3 times 24, right? So, according to him, you have the 8 categories of relatives that include 24 individual cases of relatives. Okay? Do you want to look at the footnote and do it? 8 principal categories are mentioned by the Mishnah. The brother, father's uncle, mother's uncle, sister's husband, father's aunt's husband, mother's aunt's husband, stepfather, and father-in-law. Those would be the 8. Since the Mishnah concludes sons and sons-in-laws of the 8 are also disqualified, there's an additional 16 qualifications for a total of 24. Everyone with that? That's Rav Chia. All right? So, Hane tlatin utartin have. There should be 32. There should be 32! Exclamation mark. Why? Footnote 28. According to Rav, not only are the principal sons and son-in-laws disqualified, but also the next generation of sons and son-in-law. So Rabbi Chia has authoritatively taught that the 8 categories are 24. If Rava is in fact teaching sons, they wouldn't be 24, they would be 32. And Rav is an Amora. He can't argue with Chia, who's a Tana. And so Rav would be contradicting a Tana, so he's wrong. So it can't be Ben. It can't be sons to include the son-in-laws. He can't be doing that for the Mishnah. He can't be interpreting the Mishnah that way. Otherwise, Rabbi Chia could never have taught what Rabbi Chia taught. Okay, that one we might be able to follow. So, This is according to Rav. Rav wants to extend the forbidden people another 2 relatives. The other 2 relatives will go across the 8 family groups that come from the father, the brother-in-law, and the stepfather, and their children. And if you add another layer, it's going to add 8 more people on the bottom of that tree, which is going to make Rabbi Chia's math of 24 wrong. So Rav would never understand the Mishnah in a way where Rabbi Chia's math would require it to be 32, because we know Rabbi Chia's math is 24. So on that basis, you cannot say that Rav is interpreting the Mishnah as saying that the son-in-law of the son is forbidden. In other words, Rav is outlawing the son-in-law of the son for a reason not based in those words in the Mishnah. Okay? He can't be understanding the Mishnah that way. The Gemara now needs to defend Rav another way. Ella le'olam chatano mamash. No. So it's not the son's son-in-law. It's actually the direct son-in-law. V'amai krai le'chatan beno. So why is he called the son's son-in-law? Kivan de me'alma kate kedor acher nami. So the Gemara now comes and says, Rav didn't say that. This is not what Rav said. According to this solution, the Gemara says, it's this guy. And Rav said the son's son-in-law, but he didn't mean this son's son-in-law. He called him the son's son-in-law because he's like an outsider.
The son's in-law.
The son's, but he says the son's
I know.
son-in-law. So he's going to call him a son-in-law as a way of kind of kicking him to the curb a little bit. He's not really family. He's an acher. He's from out there. He's an outsider. Is that convincing logic? No. The only reason they're trying to do that is because we can't resolve what Rav actually said, because it creates an obvious contradiction with Rav Chia, and it's not what the Mishnah teaches. So we're going through all kinds of calisthenics to try and save Rav at this moment. It's not a very good move. Okay? Ihachi, if so, if this really bad solution is true, havale shlishi b'sheni. All right? So you would still have a third against a second. Havale shlishi b'sheni, a third level concerning a second level. And Rav achsher shlishi b'sheni, but Rav has actually qualified a third level concerning a second level. So Rav allows this to happen because third level and second level is not forbidden in the Mishnah. And it's not clear what the Gemara is saying here because just a minute ago it kind of stuck him up here. If we're going to be back here again, why would Rav not allow him? Because on this level, Rav does allow him. Okay? It's a messy little thing. It's not clear. This is one of those moments in the Gemara. Okay? And the Gemara must therefore find a completely different source for Rav's ruling. So we're going to get rid of this interpretation, and we're going to try and find another reason why Rav would do this. And what is he? Maybe it's because of Rabbi Elazar. Rav said his ruling, Ella, Rav da Marka Rabbi Elazar. And the Rabbi Elazar, who's another Tana, so it'd be okay if he agrees with Rabbi Elazar, he can get there. Rabbi Elazar Omer, Kashem she'achi abba lo ya'id lo li hu v'no v'chotno. So Rabbi Elazar has a baraita that sounds an awful lot like Rav. He says, just as my father's brother cannot testify regarding me, same case, right? Mm-hmm. Watch it closely. Lo ya'id li hu uvino v'chatano. He, his son, and his son-in-law. Good. Those people are not allowed. That's the same. Kach ben achi. Similarly, the son of my brother. I'm sorry, ben achi abba. I'm sorry, the son of my father's brother. The son of my father's brother. So this guy. Right? Lo ya'id li hu uveno v'chotno. Him, his son, and his son-in-law. So Rabbi Eliezer does the same thing Rava does, only on the other side of the branch. Get it? He's over here. Same people, only against me. So we have a Tannaitic source that this guy is not allowed to testify up there. Okay? That's Rabbi Elazar. This is Rava saying this guy is not allowed to testify up there. All right. So, does that work? Does that work? The akate havale shlishi b'sheni. Okay? But it's still a third level against a second level. Right? Everyone with me? Same objection. It's a third level against a second level. Why would we be saying that's not allowed? V'rav achsher shlishi b'sheni. Rav permits a shlishi to a sheni. But here, Elazar is saying a shlishi to a sheni is not permitted. So since Rav allows it, and Elazar doesn't, he can't be based on Elazar's teaching. So we haven't defended Rav yet. Elazar doesn't work for him. V'rav savar lekavate bechada uflige ale bechada. And the resolution is, Rav thought his way, he agreed with this, but he disagreed with this. Is Rav allowed to do that? No. He would have to agree with him here, because Elazar said it. But he disagrees with him here, where Elazar didn't say it.
That's even more, that's closer.
On pure argument, do we have any evidence that Rav knows what Elazar would say here? Elazar hasn't told us anything about this. So he agreed with Elazar here, and he disagreed with Elazar here, so he could still be based on Elazar, even though he's drawing the opposite conclusion in this case. Is that good logic?
No.
No! It is not good logic. And therefore, let's see if we can just get this last piece out. I know we're running over. My Tama. So what is the scriptural source for Rav? Damar kra lo yumatu avot al banim uvanim lerav. So it's going to go back to our original verse. Rava's logic in allowing this testimony is because the fathers shall not be put to death because of the sons, which we've already used like a dozen different ways in this thing. How is he going to do it? Livrabot dor acher, to include that extra generation. Avot al banim, banim al avot, is to add an extra generation. V'Rav Elazar, what does Rav Elazar say about this? Al banim amar Rachmana, Pesule de avot shade abanim. Cast those disqualified for the fathers on the sons. So the Merciful says on sons, commanding in effect to cast those who are disqualified for the fathers on the sons. Footnote 38. Rabbi Elazar also expounds and sons, as Rav does, to indicate that the grandnephew cannot testify about his great uncle. But Rabbi Elazar also expounds on sons, as indicating that the grandnephew who is disqualified for the father is disqualified for his own son as well, and thus one's cousin's son cannot testify concerning him, even though it's third level to second level. Is that the only way to try and interpret the terse words? No. Is it a convincing way? Not entirely. Does it clean it up sufficiently to move on if that is your desire? Yes. And that's Rashi. Or as I'm coming to call it, the Pshattenstein. The simple sense of the Pshattenstein. Yes.
If you've got an extended family living together, as you often have,
Yep.
and one member of the family starts stealing from another,
Yes.
how does he get in trouble?
The family cannot testify about that theft.
Right.
They would probably have to handle it internally.
Got to get the maid to
Get
see
the
it.
hell out of here.
You can't testify regarding it. Right? Okay, folks, next week we're on, and then it's Pesach and we are on, as far as I know. We don't have any reasons to be off on a Monday until maybe Memorial Day, I think.
Pesach is during the weekend, right?
Pesach is Saturday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday. Those are the Yom Tovs. Saturday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday.
I I don't think I'll be here next Monday. The JCC's having their senior Seder. I'll be